Welcome back to Secrets Behind the Stars, where today we're unpacking a reunion that has quietly set social media humming and, if we're honest, melted a corner of our hearts. We're diving into the unexpected reconnection of Halil Ibrahim Ceyhan and Sıla Türkoğlu, two artists whose path together once felt like a story already written, and now, against all odds, seems to be turning a brand new page. If you love tales of second chances, fate's peculiar timing, and the raw, breathtaking moments that make a romance feel real, settle in. This isn't just chatter, it's a journey through a rekindled spark. So what sparked all the whispers? The title says it out loud, a rekindled romance. We're talking about two people who shared something special, stepped away from it, and somehow found their way back into the same orbit. Not in the vague, let's keep in touch, kind of way, but in a way that suggests the embers never cooled. How did it happen? What shifted? What unspoken threads were still connecting them? Today, we trace those threads, one by one, and see where they lead. Picture it. Two rising stars who met at just the right, and maybe just the wrong, time. On set, in interviews, under lights and between takes, they built a rhythm that felt effortless. But careers got louder, expectations tightened, and private life shrank under the spotlight's glare. Perhaps there were crossed wires, conflicting schedules, the inevitable pressure of public scrutiny. Maybe it was youth, or maybe it was timing. Whatever it was, they chose separate roads. And yet, that quiet, stubborn spark didn't fade. It lingered, tucked away in private memories, in songs heard at midnight, in scenes they couldn't forget. Then, there came the moment that changed everything. Not a glancing run-in on a crowded street, not a calculated PR hello. This was charged with meaning. Imagine the emotional turbulence, surprise giving way to that rush of familiarity, nostalgia folding into a tender kind of unease. It's the meeting of two worlds that once overlapped perfectly and then learned to live apart. The eyes tell the truth first, recognition, warmth, a flicker of something they didn't dare name for a long time. We can only imagine their first words. Restrained, polite, but threaded with a heartbeat the microphones never caught. What makes this feel different, and why people can't stop watching, is the authenticity. Nothing appears staged, nothing seems forced. Halil and Sıla don't look like they're trying to replay a past chapter, they seem to be reading a new one with a steadier voice. Experience has shaped them. Time has softened the rough edges but strengthened the core. The laughter is lighter now, the glance is steadier, the silence is not so scary. Whatever the foundation once was, it's had time to settle and harden. The chemistry, as the title suggests, has been rekindled, not rehashed. And that nuance matters. How did that renewal take form? Picture conversations that stretch deeper than before. Old memories slip in, sure, but they share new stories, the achievements celebrated in different rooms, the private disappointments weathered alone. There's the crooked smile at a shared joke from a set day long gone, there's the softer look when one admits to nights that felt heavier than they should have. They find they still laugh at the same absurdities. They still care about the same small, oddly specific things. But now, those things feel precious. The hurried adrenaline of early success has drained away. What's left is a deliberate pace, a conscious choosing. Sometimes it's all in the subtle gestures. A look that lingers half a beat longer than it should. A hand brushing past an arm and staying there, just long enough to say, I remember you. Texts that begin as little check-ins and suddenly spill into long exchanges after midnight, where neither wants to press send on goodbye. Calls that end with, sleep well, and mean more than the words themselves. Those details write the script of a rediscovered love far better than any grand announcement ever could. Of course, second chances don't come wrapped in silk. They demand courage and a willingness to be seen, fully, honestly. That kind of vulnerability is frightening, especially when you're both used to being guarded in public. But something about the way Halil and Sıla have reconnected suggests they were ready for that risk. They chose to open the door slowly rather than kick it open. They stepped toward honesty instead of performance. And in doing so, they invited us to believe again. Let's not ignore the obstacles. Time apart builds habits, it sharpens independence. There are schedules that don't easily align, projects that require focus, teams and contracts and expectations. There is the audience that thinks it knows everything, and the pressure of narratives others try to write for you. Old misunderstandings can resurface, dressed in new clothes. But when the core is genuine, when there's a seed of real connection, obstacles can become opportunities to show up better. It looks like that's what's happening here, a quiet, consistent choosing of one another in the middle of all that noise. There's also a kind of wisdom that only distance can teach. Maybe they've both learned what they need to feel safe, what they can't compromise on, where they can bend. Maybe the first time around, silence felt easier than saying what hurt. Now, words come quicker. Apologies come cleaner. Gratitude isn't saved for big milestones, it shows up in the ordinary moments. Warm tea after a late shoot, a message before an early call time, a promise to be there even if the day explodes. Growth doesn't erase the past, it reframes it, softening the sharp corners without pretending they never existed. Think of that first hello after so much space. Was it at an event backstage, where the lighting was cool and the chatter low? Or at a small gathering, away from cameras, where they could actually hear each other breathe? Maybe a mutual friend paved the path, or maybe fate arranged a seat chart with their names too close to ignore. They talk. The conversation begins cautiously, then warms. There are stories only they can understand, the shared rhythm of a set day, the secret language you develop when you've done 100 scenes together. And then there are the new stories, the ones from the years they walked apart. In that space, they realize the magic never left. It simply waited for them to return with better eyes. Why do tales like this hit us so hard? Because they whisper something we want to believe, that love can endure the cold seasons, that timing can shift, that people can find each other again when they're ready to hold on with both hands. When we say they fell in love, we don't mean a naive plunge. We mean a considered, grown-up choosing of each other, fueled by memory but anchored in the present. It's a hope that feels earned. If you look closely, you see the confidence this time around. No breathless rush to label, no need to choreograph their steps. Their energy together has changed, calmer, deeper, more fluent. It reads like two people who know the weight of being seen, yet are learning to be known. Behind closed doors, perhaps they draw lines to protect what's fragile. In public, maybe they let the eyes talk while the words stay humble. It's balance, and it's beautiful. And make no mistake, there will be tests. The calendar will test them. The headlines will try. The well-meaning advice will crowd in. But hand in hand, obstacles can become a sort of glue. You face something together, and you either crack or you bond. The way they move now suggests they've decided to be a team. Not perfect, not invincible, but aligned. To think of the first days of their return is to imagine late nights where they compare who they were to who they are. They speak honestly about past missteps. Not to reopen wounds, but to understand the scars. They sketch out fragile hopes, and they don't make promises they can't keep. They learn how to give one another space without creating distance. They protect what they have not by hiding it, but by holding it gently. The most unforgettable part of a rebloomed love is its humility. It doesn't boast. It doesn't need to prove anything. It breathes. It pauses. It listens. That's what we see in the way Halil and Sıla have eased back into each other's lives. It's romance with a quiet backbone, steady, deliberate, quietly defiant against the odds. And for many who watch from the sidelines, their journey taps into something personal. It reminds us that ends sometimes masquerade as pauses, that heartbreak isn't always a door slamming shut, it can be a corridor leading to another room you never noticed. The seed of a deep connection can lie dormant, patient as winter, waiting for the warmth to return. When the sun finally reaches it, it doesn't explode. It unfolds. Carefully. Beautifully. And here we are, watching that unfolding in real time. So yes, this is a love story, but not the sugary kind. It's a love story that respects reality, work commitments, private boundaries, healing, fear. It respects timing. It respects the unusual, challenging proximity of on-screen and off-screen lives. It respects the audience enough to be honest, and respects the relationship enough to keep some chapters just for two. As we step back and look at the big picture, the appeal becomes obvious. This is about persistence, the quiet survival of a bond that refused to evaporate. It's about the allure of second chances and the faith it takes to say, "I'm brave enough to try again." It's about authenticity, two people rediscovering, without theatrics, that they still fit. A rekindled romance is rarely one thing, it's a mosaic of moments. And moment by moment, Halil and Sıla are crafting something new that knows exactly where it came from. You can almost script the montage, a familiar laugh echoing down a corridor, a shared look across a room they used to own, a message that lands at the perfect time, the first coffee after a long stretch of silence, the careful touch that feels like home and also like a beginning. No fireworks needed. The glow is enough. Before we close, think about what their story says to anyone listening, that love doesn't always end neatly, sometimes it pauses to gather strength. That the past doesn't have to be a prison, it can be a teacher. That sometimes, the person who once knew you best is also the person who can meet you now with fresh eyes. And that when both people choose the same direction, fate doesn't have to push. It simply steps aside. So to sum it up, the reason this reunion has captivated so many is simple and powerful. It speaks to endurance. It celebrates second chances without sugarcoating the effort they require. It shows how a genuine connection, tested by time, distance, and the echo chamber of fame, can find its way back to warmth. There's mutual rediscovery here, a softness that feels earned, a chemistry that didn't need to be recreated because it never truly left. We've loved walking through this with you. Tell us what you think. Do you believe in second chances, in love that rests and returns stronger? Have you lived a similar chapter? Drop your thoughts below, we read everything, and your stories matter here. If this deep dive moved you, share it with someone who needs a reminder that beginnings can happen in the middle. And of course, stay with us at Secrets Behind the Stars. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and let us guide you through the moments that make celebrity love stories feel astonishingly, beautifully human. Until next time.